You are watching the Hot Girls Healing Podcast with Salenna Green. I'm Salenna Green, and this is Cleo Wilson. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Black PWI experience. PWI meaning Predominantly White Institution, so colleges, universities, all that good stuff. So Cleo and I both attended the same PWI in Washington, University of Washington Bothell. And at the time that we went there, it was like one of the best campuses in the entire country. So I don't know if that's still the same, but I know when we went there, it was like one of the most diverse campuses in the entire country, which was still very white.
Yeah,
and then,
for sure. I think I remember that article actually.
Yeah, and then another article that came out while we went there was the best like bang for your buck in the state or in the country. One of the best bangs for your buck as well. So we came up in like in some ways, in some places, and in some spaces by being at this PWI. But all the glitters ain't gold, and it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. So we're gonna get into all the good, the bad, the ugly of being Black at a PWI, and then we're gonna also talk about like some things that are being said, like on Twitter and online in these streets. But before we do that, let's talk more about Clea. So how I know Clea is we met at
UW. Can we say it?
Yeah, we literally met in college.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Wow. Is that why we did this episode together?
Well, I think you talked to me. So we should talk about UW Bothell. And I was like, okay, sure. I love that place, by the way.
Yeah, so I met Clea at UW. I know Clea to be an extremely intelligent person, a very compassionate person, a mover and a shaker, a fashionista, and overall bad bitch. Like, that's really like, I would say that's it. Like, Clea is someone who I recognized to have very powerful and attractive energy, and I've seen that like play out in several ways in your life. So that's how I know Clea. Now Clea's gonna tell you how she knows Clea.
Yeah. How I know Clea. Well, Clea is a Virgo, just like Miss Salenna. And
Jamise up.
Honestly, I'm gonna call myself a Seattle girl now. I think I've lived here long enough, specifically.
Seattleites, don't come for me. Come for her.
I'm just gonna say. But I grew up in Marysville, so
that's why they're gonna say you're not from Seattle.
Right. Well, I was also a military brat, so this is just the last stop. And, not a fan of rain. Hate it, actually. Big fan of palm trees. So that's a little bit about me.
I know that's right.
I actually don't love the weather here. But when I'm not whining about the weather, I'm at work, and I'm a school counselor, so that's pretty lit. And that's also kind of why I went to UW Bothell, which is where I met Salenna.
Yeah.
So, we're actually taking one of those amazing 300-level courses. And I don't remember how long I waited to, come to NG, but I was, super excited just in general because we're in the same class. And at UW Bothell, that's a little rare. So, I was like, who is this?
Okay, I just have to say that by the time Clea met me, we did not meet first day of freshman year. We didn't meet freshman year. We didn't meet sophomore year. I'm pretty sure we met my junior year of college. So I was out here destitute for years.
Same.
No, I had other Black friends. But I was out here in these streets for years though before I sat my angry ass down at that table in that class. I think it was a writing class too.
Yeah, it was.
And just had this energy of just don't sit next to me by then. But then someone sat next to me, and I was like literally, who dare? And so I turned to the right because I was sitting in the left seat, And I turned to the right, and then I saw this angel sitting next to me, and she was so happy. I was like, yo, literally, I was like, who the fuck is this happy ass bitch? And then, like, I just wanted to know more about her, so, like, I actually talked to her, and I was like, hey, like, who is you? Like, what are you doing here? How long have you been here? Why have I not seen you up until this point? And we've literally been friends ever since.
Yeah, it felt immediately deep.
Yeah, literally, when we sat down at that table together, that was the beginning of our friendship. But by the time we left that table, we were already friends. So we sat together every day in that class, and we kept in contact after that quarter was over. I rarely actually had classes with anyone that I knew. So I was like, this will never happen again.
I know. And I was upset, actually, because I was like, okay, great, like, I love you, but you're, like, graduating. So I was doing that distant thing anyway, where I was like, yeah, it was nice being in a class with you. You know, I was doing all that as well. But this is swell.
Yeah, you tried it, because here we are all these years later, right? So.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so now that we know our background and who Clea is, let's get into our actual conversation. So I have prepared some guiding questions for this conversation. The first of which being, of our PWI experience, being Black, being not light-skinned people, being that we are melanated beings, what was it like? Like, how did this experience end up helping you? How did it end up harming you? Like, that's what I want to talk about first.
Totally. Universal. Okay, specifically, so growing up in Marysville, I was the only brown person forever, from my recollection anyway. So this person is now a senior in high school. And it's time to go to college, and I know my parents aren't going to want me to leave the state. So listen, that's where I'm coming from. Oh, these were simpler times, I feel like, because now I'm getting all grounded in that thought. But I was like, all right, I mean, when you live in Washington, you're either, you go to UW, or you go to Western, or
WSU if you have to, I guess.
I don't know about all that.
It wasn't an option for me, but I will just say that there are people who go there.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, well, suppose we had Wazoo.
As a formality.
Yeah, as a formality. It's like, okay, like, which one of these three am I going to get into? And then, right, I don't like the weather here. Haven't for a long time. I did apply to SDSU, San Diego State. Again, you can tell demographics are not on my mind.
The palm trees were on your mind.
The palm trees were on my mind. The vibes were on my mind. But it hasn't always been on my mind because it's just something I know. And I'm going to be one of the only brown Black people in this space. Right. So it's not even a box I'm thinking about at that time in my life.
I feel that. I literally grew up in a kind of similar situation. Like, I grew up in Portland, and then we moved to Vancouver, so it's like already kind of white, and then even whiter. But I wasn't always the only Black kid, especially not earlier, not in Portland. But when I moved to Vancouver, certainly that is when I became the only brown kid in any space. And I think that when it came to college, like, I definitely applied for colleges outside of Washington too. I was like, fuck this weather, first of all. And then I'm trying to be somewhere where there's more people who look like me. Like, I did want that experience. I actually looked into HBCUs, and that is when I found out that HBCUs are for Black people with money or Black people who already live in those states. So it was not an option for me. And I already had scholarships for Washington State, so it was a pretty strong incentive to stay here. So, boom, we both ended up at UW.
Right?
Even though the sun was, like, so close.
Yeah, the sun was really close. And honestly, yeah, I would say financials were on my mind. I forgot to mention that, but I think that's I mean, we're Virgos. So.
Yeah.
Obviously. All right, I had a checklist. But yeah, I wasn't, like, fiending to be around other black people at the time. I didn't even know that was an option. So I was like, I know that this is what my next step is.
Yeah. I had little fantasies. I did. I wanted to go to an HBCU. I wanted to be a majorette, which I didn't even know how to pronounce correctly at the time because I'd only read the word. But I knew I wanted to be one of them. And I knew they danced, and I danced. So I did have fantasies of going to an HBCU, which were pretty quickly squashed once I started looking into it. But I did still like the little diversity part of UW's appeal. Yeah. So I was like, at least I'll see black people. And I did. At orientation, I saw black people. At leadership camp, I saw black people. Yeah. In some of my classes, I saw black people. It was magical.
I mean, it is magical. I think it's only getting browner, to be honest.
Nice. Yeah, I loved UW because the black and brown people who were there were active. Yeah. Like, it did take me a few years to find BSU, but then I also found out that it was, like, newly reestablished when I found it. So I was like, wow. Like, what the fuck?
Like, yeah. I would say that was a whole new game, right? Like, UW also had it all, okay? That was diverse.
I think we ended up getting, like, we were fighting for a diversity center because at the time being the most diverse campus in the country, we didn't even have a diversity center, and that was a huge battle. I think it took years, for that to happen.
I think the diversity credit requirement, that was still being talked about, right? Like, adding it. So that's where we were at when we went there. I think it's there.
I think my eye literally started twitching when we talked about that.
But so imagine, we met on that magical campus where a lot happened. But it was just nice that we got to be in the same class, which was a pretty cool class.
I was so jaded by the time we had met. Like, she was like a beam of sunlight, and I was like, oh my God, like, the first year that I was at UW, we were sitting in classes, and at the university level, white people just want to know why they can't say nigger. So that's me at UW in my freshman year. And then in my sophomore year, I'm sitting in classes where, like, literally white men are doing nothing, getting kicked out of their groups for inactivity and still passing the same class as me. Yeah. And then I met you junior year. Yeah. Like, I was literally so done with these people by then. Not to mention my, it was like some type of diversity and equity and inclusion class that was taught by white men. Like, I was so done with that school. Like, they had taken all hopes that I had of what higher education was going to be like. Mm-hmm. Like, all of my little fantasies were dashed. And so I think that was both a way that it helped me and that it harmed me being at a PWI, because little baby grew up and I certainly got to see what the world really was, and what people and communities really cared about and what their concerns were, and the different paths that all led us to that one institution. I was just floored by how easy some people had it, the difficulty that other people had. I went there and I worked like part-time, but there are people there working multiple full-time jobs with a full-time load.
It's true.
I was like, I can't imagine. I'm so tired. Like, how do you do that? Mm-hmm. So it definitely showed me that, like, obviously I didn't have it the worst. I don't have it nowhere near the best. But just like the foolery that took place in those institutions was a lot to handle.
Honestly, I agree, but I'd say that it more helped me. Like, I still feel like UW was the school for me to go to. Like, even now knowing about HBCUs and, like, knowing how much I love being around other black people, right? Like, knowing all of this now, I think that I was meant to be there, especially during that time, because I think it was a big turning point for PWIs making initiatives and, like, being actionable in their words for diversity. It was cringy. Like, I think to describe it, like, it was definitely cringy, like having even like close friends, right? The ones you meet. For me, these individuals were white. I was working in admissions like my whole time. Best job ever. But like going into the coffee shop and then talking about like getting in, right? We work in admissions, so we were always like, oh, like what is the new thing? The new GPA, the new credit you have to have. Do we care about AP? Blah, blah, blah. And like for some reason, these 3 white hoes, right? Like 2 were like pretty rich, and then 1 was like low income, totally. We're in the cafe and looking around, they're like, oh, I wonder why we still have to have like certain amount of like black people like here, black people here on campus, before this many other white people get a scholarship. Like, that's not fucking fair, like this kind of white guy. And I was like, floored. I went off, and I'm just gonna say it, food for thought, all right? That's where it was. It was food for thought. I said, look around you. Like, you're asking why. You're saying it's fair, right? The amount of black people we're admitting into the university. But you're saying it's unfair because now you're sharing that money so that black people can come. There's no one here. Like, there's still not enough, and there will never be enough. Hence, predominantly white institution. But just that conversation in that moment, I would say, again, helps. You gotta see, like, who... It's provided me further with that, like, instinctual, who are these people? And I just don't forget. Like, instilled, I guess.
I feel that.
I'm not surprised.
No, yeah. That statement did not surprise me even the least bit, especially not that a white man at UW said that. I can't even tell you the dumb shit I've heard come out of white men's mouths at these institutions. I think that was literally college was where I learned that no matter how high up that white man got, no matter what CEO, CFO, or president he is, someone else can do his job better, undoubtedly, no matter who he is and what his experience is.
I'd say the 2 white women.
Me, personally, I can probably do his job better.
The 2 white women sitting at the table were no better, though.
Oh, of course not.
I wanted to bring money into it because it's
of
like,
course
oh,
not.
Yeah, like, you know, technically you're middle class. I was like, but you don't know what I am. But she was like, that's your gonna be, and I was like, no, because you're white, babe. Like, you're missing the point. So that's just the part. There's no shock factor anymore. That like, even though we're talking about how all of the people's issues,
not a 6-year-old's understanding of what is and not fair. I was like that's literally what my 6-year-old like means. Like when they don't get something that they want, they're like, oh, that's not fair. Like, we're in college, sir. This is not preschool. It's not fair just because you didn't get what you want. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
is what I learned to say to white men in college. So
helped. Hence helped.
So it did help.
Yeah.
I will say that, I don't know, I would say that, you know, proximity gives you things, there's pros and cons, right? Yeah. So I feel like going to a PWI is just saying, like, what are the pros and cons of white proximity for, like, any black person? Like, obviously we have more insight. We, like, know how to navigate these spaces. Like, if we want to spend the energy, like, we could do it to be in these white spaces. I long ago found that I'm not willing to spend the energy to do so. And that is also a journey that I found at that PWI. And I would say that that's a strength. I stopped code switching in college. I realized that if white people get to be their self and just be as gauche as they want to in any social setting.
It's like, why wouldn't we?
Then certainly my black culture is welcome. So, yeah, these are powers that I reclaimed in college as a black person at a PWI, and that is huge for me. And, you know, given what you were saying, like, with all the knowledge that I have now and seeing, frankly, the conditions at Howard, because, look, Twitter don't lie, pictures don't lie, videos don't lie. They had me fucked up.
What's going on at Howard?
What was going on? They were not doing their students right.
Oh, no.
Like, people's dorms were moldy, stuff was flooding, like, it got bad. And I was like, ooh.
Can't take the institution.
Like, it's still an institution, right? Like, and that was the thing. I had fantasies about HBCUs because always growing up around white people, like, I didn't have to have fantasies. I already knew what this was like. So I can only have fantasies, or could only have fantasies about what it would have been like to go to a place where, you know, I was a part of the racial majority, and every time I walked into the room, everyone didn't look at me. Like, literally, I started just using that to my advantage. Like, bitch, I started putting on a show. Like, I started working the runway, okay? Because I have a Leo Venus. If you're gonna be my audience, I will put on a show. So it's like, powers that I reclaimed at PWIs. And I honestly I think that was the right choice for me as well. I was able to get in and out, like, I didn't have extra energy to spare in college. Like, I ended up getting really sick, with, anemia. My asthma was as uncontrolled as it had ever been in my entire life. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without taking multiple breaks. Like, that's how bad my health was. So, being already really physically depleted and then having to finish my studies and write these papers and do this mentally exhausting work, like, child, I did not have it in me to be worried about a road show or no mold at the same time. So, though I'm sure there are PWIs that have terrible dorms too. Like, child, I just don't know. I didn't even live on campus. I can only tell y'all what was happening at my mama's house, and there was no roaches.
Actually, UW housing is pristine.
Oh, okay. No, say that, because I just don't know. I went to a few parties I wasn't paying attention to.
That's more than me. No, so I still commuted from home, like, mostly. So still living in white-ass Marysville, Washington, commuting to white-ass Bothell, Washington. And that sucked. So I didn't even move out until senior year. But, like, before that, being a tour guide, I got to see housing, but I never lived in it. I did meet Courtney and Cerise, which is another
I also met them.
Glue. Yeah.
We would be in so many classes, just like we would look at each other when there was bullshit. So.
Yeah. And that was amazing, right? So, like, we're building our community within it. But at the same time, I totally get the level of just, like, exhaustion. I feel like I went to the other extreme of, like, you know what, I physically can no longer just sit here and deal with the microaggressions. Like, now I was also learning, I'm going to say some of the classes were amazing. I learned a lot.
Oh my god, I had amazing classes!
Yeah.
I had a black professor at
UW. Race, equity, gender. Like, you know, and so I was like, well, I have this vocabulary now, and the fun thing about not giving a fuck, right? Like, let me just raise my hand and just say some shit. Because right now, everything they're saying to me is, like, pretty cringe, right? Like, the participants were a mixed bunch. But
no, I don't. No, the brown people at UW would also suck. Yeah. Yes, I want to be clear about that. White people sucked. Brown people also sucked. I don't know, like, I feel like I should, like, do another third category for anyone who doesn't identify as white or brown. You also probably sucked.
Yeah. And again, right, not that we went in pristine, like, stars of college. Like, everyone's doing development. It's a very, like, awkward time, I guess, next to middle school. I feel like going to college and, like, being alone. But on top of that,
people had their mouths open at college who shouldn't. I didn't come in pristine, but I came in with my mouth closed.
That's true.
If I didn't know what I was talking about.
Though. So there it is, right? Like, I feel like...
There you go.
I feel like that was the part that helped, because I no longer do that, and my face no longer does that. I don't feel like I'm no longer threatened being the only person with this opinion, typically. Like, that doesn't matter to me anymore. So that has really helped in my workplace. Again, we still fucking live here. Yeah.
I mean, I embraced the angry black person trope when I was in college. I was like, yep, I will be. I remember I wrote a paper called The Black Bitch. And I was like, the whole point of the paper is, like, I will be the black bitch all up on your motherfucking ass. Like, that was 5 pages of that paper.
Healing.
And it was extremely healing, because I really started to realize that respectability politics were a trap for black people. I was like, you don't abide by these respectability politics that you expect me to abide by. And one thing that I decided for myself is that I wasn't upholding any special standards. So that's just that. Mm-hmm. No respectability politics here. I am that I am.
Authenticity, yeah, you are.
We jingling over her. Okay, so let's speak briefly while we are talking about PWIs and HBCUs, because there was an article that was released, and Black Twitter was abuzz about a black girl at USC, I want to say, who started a majorette team at her PWI. Okay, so I know that people had different opinions, and the consensus was a little bit split. But let me just say, for the record, if there was a majorette team at UW, we would have been at tryouts. Okay, Muna would have been there too. Muna's my other black friend from UW. There wasn't a lot of us there. Okay, but okay, me, Muna, and Cleo, we would have been at the majorette tryouts. So
on time.
I look, I don't know what to tell you.
On
people
time.
at the HBCUs, we would have been there on time, stretching in the corner, ready to do it. So I feel like black culture, for the record, belongs wherever there are black people.
Exactly. Agreed. Also, literally first time hearing majorette. However, okay, so love the culture, right? So I'm on TikTok.
Dancing.
Yeah, and there's one that's hot right now. It's kind of pissing me off, the appropriation of it a little bit, but it's TikTok, right? I'm trying to...
It is TikTok.
I'm just trying to...
Black creatives make it, and then it...
Yeah. So, yeah, I would have been on that team.
Look,
what I was
and I'm just saying, like, I don't care who mad about it. Like, I want to be on the majorette team.
Cute.
So it just is what it is. But moving on to the other things that I really wanted us to touch on. Where did this all, like, lead us? Where did... Like, I know for me, going to a PWI led me to a few things. It led me to doing the work that I'm doing now, for one. Being in the nonprofit sector, I've been there since I graduated. I actually have been there since before I graduated, because I did my senior internship at a nonprofit. So I have been in the nonprofit sector since I was 21, which is wild.
That's awesome.
And that is in part by the PWI that I went to, but also, other factors, just me, knowing what I wanted to do, having a community psychology degree.
That's the best major.
Yeah, it really helped me. Okay, so community psychology is about people in context. Beautiful, right? Because a lot of... Did you just grab your titties?
Bro, it's okay. Just hit the rewind if you want to laugh. Sorry, continue.
Okay.
Continue.
No, my silent ass laugh.
Okay, that goes for anybody.
Okay.
We were just talking about this. Okay, you know what? I'll just address it. If your armpits are dry, you're a fucking liar. Like, if that shit is, like, chapped sometimes, you're a goddamn liar. Okay, it's fine to have a sweaty armpit. Damn, I'm sorry. I'm not going to say sweaty. Damn.
We're in front of a lot of lights, too, so... I literally cannot. I very much have no idea what we're talking about. Like, what? Okay, I'm so sorry.
We were talking about where we are now.
Yes.
This is why this is important.
Community psychology.
Yes, this major.
The best major. We did this major. Mm-hmm. And
disciplinary arts and sciences.
Yes, it was huge for me. I think I always knew that I wanted to study psychology ever since I was a kid. Just the experiences that I had, the way people acted, I was like, what is motivating this? Like, why do people do the things they do? Why do they say the things that they do? And so I always knew I was going to get a degree in psychology. Mm-hmm. And so going to UW and then finding community psychology, I was like, what at? And what's the difference between that and just psychology? Mm-hmm. And I really appreciated that extra, like, specification, like community psychology, like how do people operate in context? Why are people, and how do their environments construct them or affect them or change them? Mm-hmm. And that was really huge to me, because a lot of the times the things that the Black community faces is presented to me in a way that would suggest that it is just this person. This is just that community. It is just the way these people are. And that is lazy and bullshit. And so when I begin to understand the systems and the environments and the influences that take place and act on people at different ages, and different, socioeconomic statuses, of different races, at different times in history, like, it really became so abundantly clear to me that people are going to respond to the environment that they're in. And not only that, but when people move to change the environment that they're in, there's like this inherent friction. And so that was just huge for my understanding.
And learning about that and getting context for that, and while sitting in the PWI, like, that was just like my epiphany.
Yeah.
I just feel like, I'm like, oh, this is exactly what it is. So then I think that makes sense for all of the work that we do now. Like, me, I've always also wanted to be in psychology. I originally wanted to be a journalist. I don't know, that could still maybe happen.
I see that. Come through, Lois Lane.
I don't know.
No, I see it. I hella see it.
Well, psychology, again, the human experience, and also, like, listening.
Back to you, Cleo Wilson. Sorry.
I think we all just want to be heard, and I think that systemically we move through a lot of bullshit that keeps our truth down. So, like, being able to major in community psychology and still having that, you could pick any job that has to do in, like, the human sector, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, again, social work, amazing. Psychology, amazing. What kind of things you want to do? You have to get a different counseling degree. Like, community psychology, like, being so intersectional in nature, allows you to be more specific about which one of those systems, although all interrelated, you wanted to learn the most about in order to dismantle. So I think that's what was really, really cool. And specifically while I'm still in the U.S. public education system. Like, I talk shit about it every day around 4 p.m. when I'm out. That's right. I go back every morning willingly as I can, as willingly as I can. And that's something that I always knew. I always wanted to work in a school, because now having the perspective that I have of being the only Black person to exist when I was little, and what that can do to your development, and how many things that are just so unspoken that we could easily talk about in age-appropriate ways, I'm like, that's what I want to do. Yeah, that's real. And that glued together for me through our community psychology lens.
Yeah, no, that actually reminds me of Professor Carmichael at UW when I was there. This wonderful, powerful, brilliant Black woman professor. And I took I think it was like either applied statistics or something with her.
Oh, go ahead.
A child that was a requirement, or else I wouldn't have been there.
Stats.
But why she make me love it? And why she make it so approachable and so real? Had me over here wanting to go into some type of statistical analysis job, because I'm like, everyone is reading statistics wrong, and that is why people don't know shit. And like, I got into like coding like my senior year of college because of a Black professor. Like, I could have, like, everything could have been different had I stumbled upon these professors earlier in my career at UW. But I don't question the timing of it really too much, because I feel like meeting Professor Carmichael at the end of my time there, where I was really, really like burning out, frankly, from higher education. Like, I could not stand it. was becoming too familiar with how different some people are and the problems that they face. And
were you also worried about people graduating and doing what they wanted to do? Because I was like, you're gonna do that.
I'm trying to tell you, this white boy in my classes every single year, because we're both in community psychology, getting kicked out, not doing so, like every single year. And then I saw him at graduation, bitch, I almost walked out. Like, I really almost walked out. Mm-hmm. I was like, nah, no, that ain't who. It was him.
Well, the fact that it's still happening, right? Like, he does still have a job, and it's shit to work with people like that. So then again, the group dynamic. Like, we're scared.
He was luckily never ever in one of my groups.
Bro, I got put in that group all the time. It pissed me off, and I always did all the work. And the professors sometimes were not accommodating, or like, oh, well, you're in college, they'll figure it out. And it's like, bitch, are we not just talking about these issues right now? This is happening in my group.
Right. It's just too much.
It was a lot.
I remember being flabbergasted. Like, now in retrospect, I do look back and I'm like, maybe I was a little bit mean to him because, like, we were supposed to be cool. But I remember in one of my first writing classes at the in freshman year, right? So we all just got out of high school. But I just really felt like his writing wasn't up to par. No, because, and I only say this because we were in a group together. It was me and him and one other girl, me being black, him being white, the other girl being Asian. And we were all in this group together. So me and her, our papers were good as fuck, okay? We would always have to rotate our papers in this same little group. Like, I was not lenient in my editing, but I wasn't harsh, okay? I did the same editing for her that I did for him, but she never made me write, like, literally, what the fuck does this mean on her paper? And he did several times. Like, I was like, did you even try with this sentence? Sometimes. Because literally, I was like, this isn't even connected to either of the sentences on the other side of it. Like, how are we all in college, at the same institution, supposedly being held to the same standards, but we are both writing papers that are actually at the college level? And I'm like, I genuinely feel like this is a high school level paper that I'm reading.
Yeah. It's like that.
And he would be like, wow, like, you're really mean. Like, he was actually a really chill dude. Like, he'd be like, wow, that's, like, kind of mean. And I'd be like, honestly, like, I'm just telling you the truth. And that was that. Yeah. But he honestly still, I feel like he was still cool with us because, like, the other girl would be like, you know, like, maybe she said it, like, in a way, but, like...
Oh, she was the mediator?
Yeah, she was like, but, you know, your paper ain't good. But we'd be like, so how was your girlfriend, though? Like, you know, like...
Cool dude, but...
He was a cool dude. He just... I could not pretend. I've never been a pretender. And so I didn't. And his writing did improve.
Hey, well, he's probably podcasting about how he improved his writing.
Maybe. One can only hope, but
maybe.
So, Clea, it was such a wild experience.
Yeah.
I will ask, though, this wasn't like one of the questions I was originally going to ask, but we did briefly talk about it, so I kind of want to go back. Like, were you involved with, like, any of, like, the protests on campus or, like, the walkouts? I remember I walked out several times.
I felt so cool. And that's what I mean by it pushed me forward. Because it was nice. Like, the amount of black people on campus that did get together. Because there were, you know, some really interesting hate crimes happening in a moment where we were getting a diversity credit, right? Like, it's like shit on TV. So, like, being able to go from BSU and, like, make a sign and then, like, go out there and be like, here, hold this, like, that was amazing. And I'm sure we could have done that at an HBCU, but it just, I don't know. Isn't that I don't know. Maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah, I think that's the point.
Of going to an HBCU. You shouldn't have to worry about hate crimes. I don't know.
Well,
different hate crimes.
Right, yeah, sure. That's what I was going to...
Yeah, different hate crimes. Maybe racism, because, again, we didn't really... That'll be...
Yeah, and they don't exist in vacuums, like...
Yeah, they don't.
I'm pretty sure, like, the white folks around HBCUs, like...
Wait, I'm sorry. Can white people go to an HBCU?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Alright. Okay, cool.
Okay.
So,
we're learning a lot today.
So,
no judgment.
Stitch this if you are white and go to HBCU. I'm just trying to see something.
Somebody come get her. But,
I'm just trying to see something. Nothing.
No, they do. I
guys.
see it.
My husband is white, okay? He's white. He's tall. He's Dutch. Alright? He's following. Alright? Nothing against it.
I couldn't speak to that, but
Nothing against it.
but he is white.
He is white. So, again, I just know everything. So.
This is actually expert material. Thank you. 3 points. Nothing but net.
Intersectionality, bitch.
Okay, so oh Lord, not me dropping my phone, my notes. So I feel like we covered all of the points that I mostly wanted us to talk about with being out of PWI. It definitely isn't the greatest thing. It's not the worst thing, probably. I think it's just a thing. I think that, like, black people are not a monolith. Black people's experiences at PWIs are not a monolith either.
Agreed. Black people have to go to college, though. I'm just gonna put my spiel out there.
I say go to college if it's something that is relevant to what you're trying to do. But I will say I had plans to get a PhD before I ever went to higher education.
You're so old. And
then after I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I was like, literally never a fucking again.
Yeah.
So if somebody want to get out an honorary PhD, but also people are against those now. They're like, we need to stop honoraries. They're like, we need to stop giving those out. But honestly, I feel like that's low-key kind of classist because life experience is education.
Yeah.
And so I feel like honorary degrees are still relevant. I love that.
Who does it hurt? I'm just like, who is concerned?
Elitists. That's who.
So again, we're back to the entire point.
Like, I genuinely, I haven't heard, like, one single relevant reason why honorary degrees, like, shouldn't be a thing. But I also haven't, like, super looked into it. I just know I ain't going back, so I might go back for a class or something, but I don't think that I would pursue higher education the way that I did before, with it being the institution that it is. Like, it was too much.
I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I obviously did a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she went. Tell the people.
I mean, okay, so I'm an educational specialist. I got an EDS next to this name. So I did an extra 3 years to be a school psychologist at Seattle University. That's a real episode too. So no regrets on my college choices.
I'm pretty sure I don't like Seattle University because they don't take financial aid or something.
No, yeah, they're
don't
private.
Quote me on that.
It's private.
Yeah. So do quote
That's
me.
it. Yeah, it's yeah. So, yeah, I went to extra 3 years of school. Graduated from UW after 4 consecutive years, another 3 consecutive years, and now I've been working in this profession for about 4.5 years without school. Love it, but at the same time, I don't know. It would be nice to just kind of finish it up a little bit, I guess. I don't know, just to fucking say I did it.
Maybe that I need to just switch my way of thinking about it.
I love having letters by my name. I'm not gonna lie, it's sexy.
Clea, your name is arguably made of letters, so does it really make a difference?
Me letters.
Okay.
Give me that period. Give me that.
Okay. She wants the period. She wants the commas. Give it to her.
Because I know everything. And I don't like learning, okay? So it wouldn't be about going to school. It's just still me for myself, trying to show myself that I'm not the student that everyone told me I was, that couldn't do this, but now I'm just fucking doing it to do it because I can't. That's just, That's just how I feel about college. Do you need to do it? No. You don't have to do anything.
That's true.
You don't have to do anything.
I'm gonna just be like this.
Yeah.
Forever.
But what are you gonna follow? Don't move here if you don't like rain. I wouldn't lie to you like that, to be honest. But the vibes are immaculate.
The vibes do vibe. I will say that. But I will also say that living in Washington, I've come to appreciate rain. I've come to learn to love every season. But I still do like the summer the best. So.
Oh my gosh, summer?
I'm a summer
Look
baby.
Look at the sun on my shirt right now. I'm talking shit, and this never happens. This happens about every 11 days. All right? Every 11 days, maybe. So, yeah.
It's give or take. So, but yes, PWIs.
Why not? I mean, if you want. Who cares?
I met her there, so it's worth it. You know, you can get some lifelong friends.
Go where the money is. I'm sorry. Just to even go back to the first point, Selena. Yeah. That's how you make decisions.
Don't break yourself. Yeah, don't break yourself.
In general, not cool. But, like, whoever gives you that money.
First of all, can you first of all, I'm like near 40-something minutes into this. But can we talk about how student loan forgiveness got, like, approved and then halted? Like, if y'all don't get those student loans out,
I'm sorry, I don't open those emails anymore. You're paying for it. I signed off on something years ago. That isn't in place anymore. It
was a really bad investment on their part. That's what I would say to them.
Yeah. I don't get it. But keep
really risky ROI for them.
Yeah. I mean, you work in a nonprofit, though, and I work in a public ed, so we are doing PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness. However...
But I looked into that.
Abolish it.
And they don't like to
forgive. It's not even real anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, they don't even forgive people who work in leadership. I work in leadership at my family's nonprofit. And I feel like because I'm black and working in leadership, they should be forgiving it even more. Yeah. Apparently that's not how they feel.
I mean, we shouldn't even have to submit forms for being black.
Like, y'all got my social security number. Run the check. And that's on period.
Honestly.
All right, I'm Salenna Green, and this has been the Hot Girls Healing Podcast. We'll see you next time.